Just a heads up and spoiler alert, I won't be mentioning anything about hybrids, small sport utes, compact, or fuel efficiency. But better yet, I'll be talking about the bigger is better mantra, which I tend to try to live by. And this week, this offering definitely delivered. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the 2020 Nissan Armada. And if you've heard me before, well, this is right up my cup of tea. And well, it did no wrong and truly delivered everything I expected when it comes to a big stablemate. When a vehicle goes unchanged for several years, that means, well, it must be doing something right. And when it finally does change, it's just to, well, enhance things just a hair. And that's pretty much how I describe the Nissan Armada, because I'm a big fan of it and pretty much debated buying it for several years. And as I followed it and pretty much the non-changes it went through, I pretty much said, well, they've got a solid design. It finally went through a little bit of evolution over recent years and got to where we see it now. And well, did it change from where it began? Certainly not. Still a big, bad offering with a little bit of refinement around the edges. Now, certainly its truckish demeanor, its kind of straightforward SUV styling is still somewhat there, but it got a little bit kind of curvaceousness and softening around the edges, which is to be expected when you go through a little bit of evolutional design. Now, don't get confused, because the Infinity version of this is even more curvaceous, most notably up front with a little bit of kind of curves over the haunches. But pretty much what we have here on the Armada is nice straight styling. But what I truly like is just the overall presence, most notably the size. So how does the Armada size up? Well, pretty much around about 208 inches overall, wheelbase around about 121. As for height, about 75 inches tall, width nearly pushing 80 inches wide. What does that mean? Well, the novice may be a little timid behind the wheel, but with all the technology that goes into vehicles these days, certainly there's some safety features built in to make everyone feel at ease. Now, other big numbers to think about is ground clearance. That's going to be around about 9 inches, give or take. And what does that mean for ingress? Well, nearly 2-foot step in height when you climb inside. But what helps with that is certainly these side step rails, to be expected on a vehicle this big. This particular model is the Platinum Reserve, which pretty much means there are no options. Almost everything comes standard, but there is one standout on this model, which is at the 4 corners. Now, first off, it is the 275/50s wrapping the massive 22-inch wheel. Now, I can't remember the last time I drove on a wheel placement that big, and what it does is truly match the overall scale of this vehicle, because if you think about it, going 18, 19, or 20 just seems somewhat Matchbox-esque. Upgrading to something like that definitely matches the overall appearance. Now, one thing I like is the fact that it is a subdued approach. Now, what I'm referring to is basically no chrome, no bling out. In Platinum, you start to think, well, there's going to be a lot of blinging affair, but not here. Really kind of a subdued brush look, and certainly goes with the overall exterior, this blackened exterior and the modest accents all the way around the vehicle, really allowing this vehicle to be classy, not too gaudy. So I like my big SUVs, but one thing I don't like is the truckish-like feel, and what I'm referring to is behind the wheel. And when you get behind this vehicle, everything seems to smooth out and seem somewhat refined, and that's what's helpful about the exterior of this vehicle. It does have that appearance of being refined. It's not real in-your-face, truckish, and bravado. It does have some nice softness here and there, but one area they stuck to the good old standard operating procedure is the grille warfare. Blunt force trauma, and you can see it in this huge open face grille, the V styling that you see across the family lines, Nissan emblazoned right in the middle. Now, pretty much body color all the way around, and you will get the hint of chrome obviously through the middle, which is carried across the entire Nissan lineup. Now, this front end compared to its Infinity sibling, obviously the Infinity steps up just a hair, a lot more curvaceousness, that a little bit more softened around the edges, but the Armada truly sticking to more of a truckish SUV utilitarian side of things, and this is to be expected up front. Now, what's not expected is some of the refinement. Obviously, you have some nice parking sensors up front, really allow you to dive in with ease. Nice stylizing and advancement when it comes to headlights. Before we sweep around the rest of the vehicle, let's look at the headlights one last time. Again, that bedazzling around the outer side, but the headlights truly under one huge bank of glass. Now, fog lights are tucked down low, and all that really accommodates with a lot of throw going down the road. Now, as for airflow, of course, you're going to get tons of it through the upper grille, even on the outer ports, but down low, that lower intake. Now, what's great is there are vents on the side. Those appear just to be kind of there for looks and all that, but these are actually operational. We all feel like experts behind the wheel, but sometimes when a vehicle gets this big, we can feel a little timid or even like we're a novice. But what helps with the Nissan Armada is the safety features. Now, I mentioned the parking sensors at the front. Obviously, there's sensors at the back, but the next level is the surround view, the camera at the front, the camera at the back, and here on the side mirrors. That really allows the driver to get a sense visually of what's going on around them. But Nissan takes it to the next level. I tested this out at slow speeds in the driveway, put it in reverse, got close to an item, obviously could see it on the camera. The vehicle sensed I wasn't going to stop. It stopped for me, alerted me there on the screen with a red border, pretty much said, if you're not going to stop, we're going to stop for you. And that's going to be great at low speeds when you're trying to park in tight spots. This vehicle takes it to the next level. Now, another big thing is the brain on this vehicle, not just the brawn. It all starts with good old ease of ingress. Now, where it's at is here on the driver's door. When the vehicle is locked, just simply press once here, unlocks this door, press it again, unlocks all the rest, simply walk away, lock it right up. Now, what thing I always talk about is the Achilles heel, when you don't have ease of ingress at every door. Now, naturally, you have it at the front two doors, obviously at the rear hatch, but not here at the back passengers. I've always said, if you can put a button here, why not put it at every access point? Unfortunately, the Nissan Armada Platinum Reserve doesn't deliver here, so it pretty much means when it's raining, you're going to have at least a two-step approach, go here and go there. But one big feature I do like is the lockability right through here. When the vehicle is locked, this is secure just the same. If you need to unlock it, again, unlock the vehicle, walk right up, opens with ease, and it is a little bit old school here in the good old traditional cab. So I mentioned that this vehicle can scale down, but that's really when it comes to the driver, not its true overall presence and size. What this vehicle does is deliver people and their cargo with ease, and naturally the business end is one area where it begins. Now, first off, before we dive inside, let's talk about design. Nice, modest rear offering when it comes to a bumper. That does translate when the hatch is raised, allowing for a little bit of tailgating atmosphere and at least a place to dangle your legs. We'll talk about towing capacity in just a minute, but a nice covered up recessed hitch there when you need it. Now, as for design, huge bank of glass, traditional approach when it comes to the rear windshield wiper. Some vehicles are tucking those up into this kind of extended spoiler. I don't care one way or the other. One thing I do wish that vehicles would kind of go back to a throwback Thursday is make this glass operational. We'll see that in some of the competition, not many, just a couple, but that does allow this rear glass to open up. And picture this huge amount of glass really opening up, lets the friendly four-legged friends get some air or what have you, but it just adds another dynamic to the overall feel of this vehicle. But maybe we'll get there. Lastly, it's just body color all the way around, a hint of chrome, of course, to couple nicely with that grille up front. But the next big thing is what lies beneath here. Now, to be expected on this Platinum Reserve is the powered rear hatch. The operation is modest when it comes to speed, no big deal. I have nowhere to go. But when you look at the overall size, what you're seeing is around about 16 cubic feet of space. That's going to be more than triple with the third row laid flat, giving you just under 50 cubic feet and plenty of room really to deliver people and their cargo. Now, I did mention earlier that I wouldn't mention hybrids and crossovers, but it does come into play here because smaller sport utes just don't deliver what the Armada does well, which is pretty much straight lines, which allows pretty much packages to have plenty of vertical height, not to mention, of course, throw into the vehicle. Now, down below this cargo, there is just a small, modest tray, but it can hold some items should you want to keep them there all the time. But pretty much your cargo back here is all through this area. Now, again, it's going to be around about 49.5 cubic feet of space when this is laid flat, but the best part about that is the easeability of that. Now, one thing to note, there are headrests that can be extended that will give you somewhat of a blind spot from their driver's position, but there is something to overcome that, and I'll show you in just a second. But to help lay these flat, this is kind of like a 60-40, 70-30 split back here. You can use these automated controls right here, and they just tumble forward with ease. Now, the best part about it is when they're laid flat, this does give you one nice seamless floor behind the second row. Now, this particular setup is captain chairs in the second row, the full bench here in the third, and that really is going to give you a lot of interior volume when it comes to people and cargo. For a vehicle this big, one thing you expect is, well, decent horsepower and, well, to get it going down the road. And where does that start? Specifically with a 5.6 liter V8 engine. Now it's going to deliver around about 390 horses and 394 foot-pounds of torque, and it's coupled to a 7-speed automatic transmission. But there's some big points to point out. Specifically, well, it's got some boot scooting boogie, and what I found is when I hammered the accelerator, it didn't have any lag and can certainly feel light on its feet. Even more so is the ability to tow, around about 8,500 pounds of towing capacity, which pretty much means this big boy can take the big boy toys. Lastly is probably something you're thinking of, which is fuel economy, which is somewhere between 13 to 18 miles per gallon. We average probably a little bit on the low side because I did like to test out the hammering of the accelerator. When it comes to legroom numbers, it doesn't hurt to start in the second row because backseat drivers, well, are the somewhat big complainers, but on the Nissan Armada, it may be the third row that is the loudest. Now, what you're going to find is our equal legroom in the front and second row, around about 41 inches. For the last row, around about 28. What does that pretty much mean? Well, the smaller kids in the back and grown adults in the front. Now, for the second row, what you're going to find here is captain chairs. You can go with the bench styling for the lower grade models, but here on the Platinum Reserve does have the nice split, really huge oversized chairs for the outer positions, nice and quilted, and nice overall ergonomics. To help keep everything nice and comfortable, there is a tri-zone system. Backseat drivers getting their own comfort levels when it comes to temperature, even airspeed. Do have heated seats as well in the second row, and you do have audio controls when it relates to the entertainment system, which is built into the nice headrest. As I've mentioned before, on driving a Nissan Armada, it does feel like flying a 747, specifically with the cockpit-like feel with all the buttons, but, well, I dig it, and it's just kind of straightforward, easy to use. Now, the first thing at the top really is the nice infotainment system. Has these shortcuts here to change what the overall view is. Now, what I prefer obviously is the audio, real easy to navigate, does have some nice presets. You can go to the map like we had before and various apps, and you can bring the climate controls up top. Now, that's helpful because, well, the climate is way down here, and keeping your eyes on the road is one thing I've always mentioned. So allowing that screen to integrate with this is something a lot of the competition is not doing. So putting it up on that screen just help make things so much easier. Backup cameras really have delivered safety when it comes to maneuverability of vehicles, but one thing that's really fallen by the wayside is, well, just the safety when you're driving the vehicle at all times. And one thing that's a big player in that is the rear view mirror and just the ability to see what's going on behind you. Now, certainly the backup camera can deliver that, but, well, what if you're going down the road in normal operation? What's helpful here on the Armada is the advanced rear view that we see here. Now, first off, this is standard mode, naturally really easy to look out, but if you have people, that's naturally going to create blind spots. But with the simple pull of this lever, well, that gives you a nice HD viewpoint. Now, you certainly can integrate with it, go into the menu function, you can tilt it up and down, change the viewpoints, even tilt it however you need. And what's great is that gives you a nice real-time view in whatever driving mode you are in, just an extra safety feature. I've been torn as of late when it comes to digital interfaces when it comes to gauge clusters. Now, the Armada has a standard analog tach and speedometer, does have a modest little readout in between. Now, do I say this is the best option? Well, I do like some type of interplay between the new LCDs and the old standard gauge cluster. Now, what Armada delivers here is quite nice, but it wouldn't hurt to scale down the gauges in general and deliver a somewhat bigger interface right there in the middle. I think we'll certainly get there, but going total digital, I don't think is the way to go either. I just like the good old analog. It seems, well, one, to be reliable, and, well, computers can sometimes fail. On the steering wheel is about all the buttons you'll ever need really to interact with the infotainment system and just other interactions. Now, on the right side is the cruise control, and it had the advanced system pretty much allowing you to set the space between the driver in front of you, and it naturally will set the speed. Over here on the left side is the entertainment and different mode selects. Now, going back to the middle, we talked about the buttons. Pretty much right through here is your entertainment. I do like the nice symmetricness when it comes to the knob. This is your tune select over here, your volume and other presets through the middle. And again, the climate control down low, dual zones to be expected up front, and that does interact with the screen up above as well. The fan speed push button in the middle. Very low on the dash, you're going to find this nice little niche here. It has connectivity in the form of 2 USBs and a traditional power supply, which you also find is nice control for heated and cooled seats. With this nice knob, you can turn left and right. Now there is a nice indicator light, but it's still a little bit dull to see at night when it is fairly dark. One thing to also note is it is somewhat dark through this area, so when you are trying to connect to the USB at night, I wish this was silhouetted in some type of outer border light. That would allow you to dial in a little bit easier when connecting up. Between the front occupants, we'll find a good old standard gear shifter. Just pull it back for standard mode, pull over to the left for a manual-like feel. Now, if you do want to go four-wheel driving, or if there is slippery conditions, you can interact. I pretty much kept it in auto all the time, but you can switch as needed. Now, one thing to note, this isn't the central control knob as seen on a lot of vehicles. The infotainment, that is specifically there still on the dash, or I did pretty much interact with the touchscreen so much easier now to help keep everything nice and sleek. There is a nice covering to the dual cup holders. One thing to note, if you do put maybe something up here like a credit card or whatever you use, it can slip into this little niche right here, and well, it's not gone forever, but you may lose your mind trying to figure out where it went. You do have nice dual cup holders, and again, springy grips here, something a lot of vehicles aren't doing. It really helps hold the drinks in with ease. Two last things to mention. First off is the rear door alert system. Now what that does is pretty much if the second row doors are open anytime prior to leaving or driving away in the vehicle, this vehicle is going to remember it, remind you when you get to your destination, and say, hey, did you forget something in the second row? This could be as simple as a loved one or a pet, or even an item you need to take with you inside a store, so on. This vehicle will sense that you were back there for some reason and remind you. Now, certainly if there's nothing back there, you can say, okay, I'm rest assured everything is good. Lastly is the overall interior noise in this vehicle. Now, one thing to note, a vehicle this big, you're certainly going to expect some road harshness, but one thing I found is it's library-like, very quiet and serene, and you can simply figure that out when you roll down the window, hear all the noise, take it back up, and it's just so quiet and serene. That does it for this edition of Road Warrior on a test drive behind the wheel of the 2020 Nissan Armada Platinum Reserve Edition, which pretty much means it had all the bells and whistles, the four-wheel drive capabilities, and well, the bigger is better mantra, which I typically tout anytime I can. And where it really all came to play is the overall interior volume, really with the amount of people that can be hauled and the cargo to boot when you need it. Now, don't forget, this is the Reserve, so it has some kind of nice premium additions. Again, the 22-inch wheels at the four corners and all the automation and ergonomics you expect in a vehicle like this. But what we like is it still held on to its nice SUV truckish like feel, but that didn't equate to a rocky kind of feel behind the wheel, but again, refinement. And that's one thing that I truly take away from the Armada, is the ability to deliver bigger is better attitude with a little bit of subtleness behind the wheel. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.